Good evening, good evening, good evening. A very warm welcome, everyone, to the Live Your Purpose or Find Your Purpose, free webinar. We're going to be streaming from multiple places tonight. So I think we're live on LinkedIn. We're also live over on as usual, over on my Purpose to Progress closed Facebook group. So hello if you're watching there. And for the first time, I believe, we're on my own Facebook, my personal Facebook page as well. So hello if you've stumbled across us on social media. Unless it's Line of Duty you're watching, stay with us for the next hour. Hopefully it will be of some value to you. So before we get into it, we're going to be talking about finding your purpose tonight, but we're also going to be talking about how do you not only find your purpose, but how do we start making some steps towards living your purpose. Before we get into it, I thought I'd do a bit of an introduction for anyone that doesn't know me. Hopefully the vast majority of you do. But I'm Darren Green. I'm a professional property investor and transformational coach. And if I take you back 5 years ago, I would say I was living a reasonably comfortable life. There was certainly nothing that I could complain about. I had a reasonable job. I got paid reasonably well for what I did. I had a beautiful fiance who is now my wife, Jill, and I was about to become a dad for the first time. Now, as any new parent will know, having a child is a massive event for you and completely shakes up the way that you think about things. And it certainly was for me as well. Now, when I had Lauren in my arms for the first time, I know that sounds cheesy as anything, but literally from the moment that I held her, my whole world shifted. And I started thinking about the hours that I was sacrificing for the salary that I was getting versus the time that I was going to give up for, not being with her. And it just didn't work for me anymore. So basically from that moment on, I started asking questions that I'd never even considered before. Me and Joe often laugh about this, that we used to look no further than our next holiday. It would be like, oh, where are we going next year? Is it Thailand? Is it Rome? Is it, wherever it was, it would always be about the next holiday. So we didn't have a shabby life by any manner of means. But when Lauren came along, our priorities completely changed. And I started asking myself questions like, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? What type of work do I want to be, fulfilled doing? What type of role model do I want to be for Lauren? And the answer that kind of kept coming back was I couldn't do those things. I couldn't answer those things in my current job. So I needed to look at making a change. So over that period of time, basically from that point, we started trying to make some passive income. We wanted to reduce the dependency on our full-time job so that we could spend more time with our daughter. And needless to say, Murray came along 15 months later, was a surprise to everyone. So we also want to spend some time with him too. So I guess at that point, we went out there and started building a buy-to-let portfolio using other people's money and investing their money, giving them a fixed return for it. And we would in the meantime, hold an asset for the long term. And what that meant to us was we knew every single buy-to-let that we were getting, we were going to hold for, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years. And therefore, we weren't interested about any sort of short-term gain, any, get rich quick. It was purely about the long term for us. We wanted to reduce the dependency from the rental income that came through, reduce the dependency on our full-time salary. It's so warm in this room tonight. I've actually closed the curtains and opened the window, but it's so warm in here. So apologies for the sweating already. So at that time, when we started building that portfolio, we done reasonably well at it. And within a couple of years, Jill was able to leave her job, and that was always the plan. And then 4 years later, or last year, I was able to leave my job as well. But somewhere along the line, I knew that property wasn't going to be the full-time job for me. I didn't want to go into property full-time. So I was still fumbling about going, what is my purpose? Like, what do I want in my life? And I reflected back on, I guess, the roles that I had previously. the things that I enjoyed, the things that brought me alive, the things where I could do and it didn't feel like work. So that was always about developing people, having one-to-one relationships with people, but developing teams and people that used to work for me. So that, whether it was with Tesco or laterally with SSE, that's where I found my passion. So I ended up training as a transformational coach with Animas on a year-long program. And last year, I started working on group programs and one-to-one programs, helping people effectively find their purpose and start living it as well. So there's one thing understanding yourself and what you want, but it's a whole different ballgame starting to go and take steps in that direction, and can be really, really scary. So almost holding people's hands, making that transition. And I still do work on property in the meantime. So I've got a HMO project that I've just finished and I'm letting out just now. So hopefully that's going to be filled in the next few weeks. And I also do property mentoring on the side as well. So I help people effectively try and build and scale their property portfolios in the same way that Jill and I have done, to try and give them some passive income for the future. So that's enough about me. But I guess what's brought me to delivering this workshop to you is because, from a purpose point of view, whether you're interested in property or not, I don't think you need to be or should have to wait until you become a dad to start asking these questions and start developing that need to do self-development, that personal, deep inner work in order to find your purpose in life and start to go and live it. I really don't want you to have to just coast through. And this is a bit like the Matrix, where Neo's offered the red and blue pill. So there is a bit of a red pill moment here, because once you start doing that deep inner work, you can't just ignore it. You can't just close the door and say, "Do you know what? I'm happy with my comfortable life." So I guess here's a point just now. If you want to take the red pill, join us for the next 45, 50 minutes. If you want to take the blue pill and you're happy with your life and your lot, then by all means, stay with us. You might learn something along the way. But really, this is about taking responsibility for yourself in terms of who you are and what your legacy is in life, as opposed to, I guess, being that passive state. When I think about kind of 5-6 years ago, where I was going into work every day, wasn't massively driven. And we'll talk about that in a bit more detail as we go through the presentation. But yeah, that's enough about me. I've bored you to tears with that, I'm sure. And I'm really keen to share some of the concepts and processes, I guess, that I've went through in order to be standing here today and talking to you. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and start taking you through some slides. And as I said, if you've got any questions as we go, any comments as well, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I will get to them at the end. So let's go back because I've jumped ahead. So we're going to go through a few things today. So why do I need to find my purpose? Yeah, what's the point of it in general? How do I go about finding my purpose? We're also going to cover, how can I understand myself better? Those are the three main areas, I guess, that I think people just genuinely don't consider. I certainly never considered for 34 years of my life, I wonder how I could understand myself better. It just never came into my consciousness. Number 4, how can I create a powerful vision of my future? So something about, being able to see something in the future, whether it's you doing something, having something, being someone, being with someone, having that powerful vision is so, so important. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. What goals should you be setting to get there? It's very well having a clear vision, knowing yourself, but if you don't actually get up and start making some goals and a plan to go and get there, ultimately you won't go anywhere. It'll be pretty worthless. And then how can I create and keep the right habits to keep me on track? Social media, I guess the world in general at the moment, there's so much going on and there's so many distractions that we have to face. And ultimately, it doesn't matter who you are, how successful you are, you're going to have been knocked off track at some point. And when that happens, it will be the strength of your habits and processes that are going to keep you on track. So I'm going to talk a bit about some things there that you can think about that might help as well. And at the end, obviously, I've got a special bonus for you as well. So for anyone that's with us at the end, if you would like to work with me going forward, I will give you an opportunity at the end to hear a bit about how you can do that. And I will have a bonus which is exclusive to the people that are listening on the call tonight. So first off, why do I need to find my purpose? Well, this is the best interpretation of what I could find out there. And my answer to it would be, why not? You almost have a responsibility to yourself in order to try and at least understand yourself and find what that purpose is, but also strive to that purpose, to the ends of that purpose over the course of your life. So ikigai is like a Japanese concept, but you can see, simply put, it's across 4 key areas. It's about trying to find a sweet spot between what you love, what people need, what you're good at, and ultimately what you can be paid for as well. And if I draw an analogy back to when I was working in my corporate career, I was definitely down about what can you be paid for. I was down at the profession and vocation area, but there wasn't much that was passion, and there wasn't much about mission. In actual fact, I think a lot about, I was working on someone else's mission as opposed to my own mission. Yeah, but I was good at it, and I was delivering something that people needed, but it wasn't truly what I loved. And I actually didn't even appreciate that. I didn't value it. I just thought that's what everyone else did. Yeah, everyone else was landing at something. If you worked hard, you were able to get paid to do something you were relatively good at, and people needed it because ultimately you got paid for it as well. But yeah, I definitely think there's a value about trying to at least explore where that sweet spot could be for you, and be looking to try and strive towards that throughout your life. Ultimately, that and being in that space just now, it's far more far more fulfilling than, say, picking up a salary for a job you just don't love. It shouldn't be a luxury afforded to people who are simply brave enough to go and change it, or have a wealthy uncle that can pay for them, or a wealthy upbringing. It should be for absolutely everyone. And certainly from an income point of view, you might need to take some cuts in terms of what you're able to make, but you actually will be far more fulfilled in what you're doing. So you might be sitting there, fantastic. The main thing I want to know is, how do I go about finding my purpose? So there's probably 3 key areas, and these are the areas that I speak to my one-to-one students, and I teach in my group programs as well. So they are, who am I? Considering who you are in the first instance. So picking things up like your key life roles, your core personal values, that deep inner work around what brings me alive, what gives me energy. Yeah. Then you need to have an idea about, once you've understood that, you need to understand where you're going. Yeah. You need to be able to create that vision of the future and start planning about how you're going to get from where you are just now to where you want to be at some point in the future. And then inevitably, how can I get there? There'll be loads of different ways that you might be able to get there. You might set off on your plan and things don't work. You need to try a different plan. And you might need to go through plan A, B, C, D, E, and F, but you don't want to be changing that goal, because you know who you are, you know where you want to get to, and you want to remain flexible to the way in which you get there. And the reason it's a big circular process here is because it never ends. Yeah, where it's clear is where you start from. It starts from understanding who you are. Then it moves on to where you're going, and then it's about how you can go and get there. So there's a nice quote here as well about finding your purpose from Ralph Waldo Emerson. So the purpose of life is not to be happy. Not sure I completely agree with him on that, but what I do agree is it is to be useful, to be honourable, to be compassionate, and to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And reading that, it can kind of startle you a bit, and it feels uncomfortable to think about. It has to make some difference. I need to have lived, but not only that, I need to have lived well. Well, in order to have done that, I do think there is a responsibility on each of us to try and find that sweet spot, that ikigai, I guess, that means that we are fulfilled about what we're doing in our purpose in everyday life. So let's start with the first of those. How could I go about understanding me? So the first thing I would say is identifying your core personal values. If I went back 5-6 years, I didn't even know what core values were. Effectively, they're ways of seeing the world, the things and characteristics, I guess, that are most important to me. And some questions to ask yourself when you're considering these core personal values. How would I describe myself? What does success look like to me? What are the things that are important to me? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it recognition? Is it belonging? Yeah. What does success look like to me? It's not the same for everyone. You might think everyone's got the same view of the world, but trust me, no one does. And even people that might say to me, well, money is my core personal value. That's fantastic. But when you get into the context of what money means to that person, it's really different from person to person. So even people that might say the same word in terms of what their values are can be really, really subjective. It will be really, really different in terms of what that means to them. And then also, what would I be doing if money was no longer an issue? So think about that one. Think about what you would be doing if money was no longer an issue for you. It won't be sipping pina coladas on the beach. It might be for a week, a month, maybe, but at some point that's going to get very, very boring. And that's not going to be something that's that important to you. So, and it needs to go beyond that. You need to be going on and thinking about what would I be doing in terms of the service to others. If I could wave a magic wand and be providing some service to people in the world, what would it be? And often when we take money out of the equation, the fact that we would just do this thing for free, that's the thing that we should actually be spending our times doing. Like talking to you tonight, I'm not getting paid for this, but it's something that's important to me. I should say as well, if anyone wants a copy of my core personal values exercise, drop your comments below or just tell me that you need it in the comments, and I will get in touch with you after. I do send it out as well. So if you go to my website, there's a freebies page that has personal values exercise on it. So you can go in and do the same exercise I actually cover off with a lot of my one-on-one and group coaching clients. Consider your key life roles. This is another one that was massively new to me. I think I'd actually started this about 6 years ago. Life roles, I first came across it with a book, Your Best Year Yet, by Jenny Ditzler. It was a director that came into our business and started using it. And she talks about life roles, and it's such a simple concept. If you think simplistically, I guess, all the different roles you have in your life, for me, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm a family member. What else? I'm a property investor, I'm a transformational coach. So all of these different roles will require different things of me. So a simple exercise that you can try to better understand yourself, just draw a circle on the page, cut it up into 8 equal segments, and ask yourself 2 questions. So the middle of that circle is going to be 0, and the outer of that circle is going to be 10. And what I want you to do is rate yourself from 0 to 10 against each of your life roles. So just write those life roles for you around each of those 8 segments and ask yourself these questions. How am I showing up in each of these roles right now? And then where do you want to be showing up? Okay, so you might rate yourself as 5 as a husband or a wife or a friend, but you want to be a 9. That friendship's really important to you. So you need to then start thinking about bridging that gap. And it's a really simple way to be able to identify the key life roles that are most important to you, and probably the areas that you need to significantly change as well. Sorry, it's just skipped on there. So yeah, if there's a big gap between where you are and where you want to be, that might be an area you probably want to be focusing on. And the last thing is speak to your friends and family. So this is something which an old mentor actually asked of me once, to go and WhatsApp all my friends. Some of my friends might be listening to this just now, got a text from me, but send some text out to the people that know you best, the people that are around your life most of all, and ask them to describe you when you're at your best and also at your worst. And once you've got received the information from that, start looking at whether there's any patterns, whether there's anything in there that's a surprise that you didn't recognize. And yeah, that will give you an indication in terms of what potentially are some of the areas you might need to work on. For me, it's also a good lesson to understand how other people see things. And one of the things I took away from it was, you're never going to be able to please everyone. You might have the exact same way of being, but someone might class it as you at your worst, and someone will class it at your best. For example, you could see someone being really driven and being overly determined or something like that, or obsessed. Yeah, someone could see driven as a really positive attitude. Someone could see obsessed as a worst. What they're describing is probably the same characteristic. They're just seeing it differently. So it's also one of the things that it allows you to step back and just take people's opinions of you with a pinch of salt, and know that some people are going to absolutely love some characteristics about you, and other people are going to, it's going to drive them up the wall. The last point on that as well is, how do you react under pressure? Now, I actually run with my one-to-one and my group coaching clients. I'm a DISC certified trainer as well. So what DISC is a personality profile technique, and allows you to basically understand yourself better from a characteristic point of view, and also helps you be able to communicate a lot better as well. So it will help you better understand what are the things that get under your skin, how do you react under pressure, and that type of profile. There's various ones about. Insights is another. Myers-Briggs is another one that was popular in the noughties. These ones are done through corporate. I've done them several times before, but I choose to use DISC for its simplicity. And yeah, it's always something which is an eye-opener for all my clients. So if you've got the opportunity to do something like that in your workplace, I would absolutely recommend it. So next up, we're going to talk about, where am I going? So what we've done is, we've went through how do you understand yourself. Now we want to start thinking about, how do I project that? Now I've got a better understanding of who I am, where do I want to go? And I've put up this image here because you're always going to have this at any stage of your career. Doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have limiting beliefs and a tug of war with your vision for the future. Your present self, where you are just now, is going to be trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you in, surrounded in a shell, stop you from taking risks and getting hurt or feeling offended. And your future self is that creative spark, that positive place where you're like, yes, I can go and do that. I'm going to go and try bungee jumping. I'm going to go traveling the world. That creative spark, that's the piece that's going to be, pulling at each other. And ultimately, for the vast majority of people, and I speak to myself in this respect right now as well, my present self generally wins. So what we want to try and do is loosen the grip on limiting beliefs, loosen or let go of that rope of our limiting beliefs. And we want to strengthen the grip on our vision of the future. So we want to make that as strong as we possibly can. So how do I go about doing that? So these are some questions just to consider with yourself about where you are right now. Think about how you're holding yourself back right now. So it might be that you don't have enough money coming in to the house. It might be that you don't feel like you've got a right balance in terms of time with your kids. It's certainly something I struggled with over COVID. I'm sure I'm not alone here, where I was trying to run a business. I was also finishing up my full-time job, and I'm also parent to two young kids under 4, which was incredibly challenging. But how am I holding myself back? What are the things that I beat myself up for? Yeah. And what are the consequences of you holding yourself back in those areas? What I want you to do, and I'll give you a couple of good examples, I guess. So let's go with money, because money is always something which generally comes up from a limiting belief, particularly anyone that's watching in Scotland. We don't talk about money in Scotland. We never talk about debt. We never get in debt. We never ask for help or charity. So talking about money or our money mindset is something I find a lot of the people I work with have some limiting beliefs around. And what I want you to do, it's generally about self-worth. So it's something about, if I've been brought up as working class, then I'm not deserving of money. That's for people who are not working class. Or that's okay. I'm not smart enough to earn that money. Yeah. And so there's these sort of questions or statements that we will make that sit at the back of our head and stop us from believing that we can go and either earn more money or ask for more money through pay rises or leaving jobs and going and getting another job. Now, what I want you to do is be a bit like a detective. So once you've identified any limiting beliefs that you might have, I want you to write down evidence to support it and against it. So think about like putting your limiting belief on the stand and write some evidence to support rationally, not emotionally, rationally, is there any evidence to support it? And also, is there any evidence to, detract it? So are there any situations where the limiting belief is not true? Particularly if you see somewhat is not true for someone else. Because if that limiting belief's not true for someone else, then why is it true for you and it's not true for them? And then fundamentally, the most important question with this is when you identify your limiting belief, you have to know if you want to stop it. And that might sound counterintuitive. You'd say, why would I want to hold on to a belief that is limiting? Well, the main reason is it keeps you safe. So, it may be, certainly for me, I think about jumping out of an airplane. I did this a couple of years ago as a metaphor for leaving my full-time job, which I knew was going to be coming shortly. And I hate heights. Now, I chose to jump out. It wasn't a limiting belief as such, but I chose to override that fear. I didn't, there was a fear. The fear just evaporated as soon as I jumped out of that airplane. But I was ready to be sick from putting all my gear on to sitting on the plane. And I was ready to back out at any point. And then effectively it was like, right, I've gone this far. I just need to go. And fear just dissipated. All fear was doing there at that point was trying to keep me safe. It didn't want me to die. It didn't want me to jump out of a plane. It's not a natural thing for someone to do. And the evolution of our bodies, the evolution of our minds are so far behind. If you think about how life's changed even just in the last 10, 20 years with social media and the internet and whatnot, our minds are still trying to catch up from thousands of years ago. So we're still kind of trying to process the same sort of emotional reaction to everyday threats, whether it's public speaking or asking for a pay rise. And we see those things as if we're going to get eaten by a predator or we're in severe danger, which just really isn't the case. So you need to ask yourself, am I willing to stop? And once you ask that question, recognize there's going to be some element of you being uncomfortable to be able to change that belief. So once we've done that, we've worked at unpicking your limiting belief, we're now going to look at your vision for the future. And we want to almost reframe your limiting belief into an empowering belief that you actually would choose. So if you think about your present self, where you are just now in that limiting belief, you want to reword, how would your future self believe? So if it's someone that's earning double your salary, well, how would that person that's earning double your salary, what would they say about that belief? How would they reframe it? Yeah. And then have a look at what your future would want to look like or what you would want your future to look like, and get really specific about it. So an exercise I've done with clients is write your full day, your diary down, your perfect day, from waking up in the morning. It might be who you woke up next to, but we won't go any further with that. But when you're waking up, what time are you getting up? What are you doing? Are you jumping out of bed, going for a 10K run? Are you rolling out and having a lazy morning, switching on the coffee machine, going and enjoying a seat in the sun somewhere. Talk about what your perfect day would be. And again, coming back to what I'd said earlier, it's not going to be a holiday. It would be what a typical day would be, not when you're on vacation or you're on holiday. And you can use visualization exercises. I do them in my group coaching program, and you can go online and have a look at visualization exercises, but they're so powerful. It would have been something I never did a number of years ago, but it's actually something which separates humans from basically every other animal. Apologies, my wee man's clearly trying to get to bed at the moment. So yeah, using a visualization exercise can be really helpful. So if you think about our ability as humans to interpret and see what things might happen in the future, other animals haven't had that ability to be able to anticipate and foresee what might happen. So it's really quite a natural concept for humans. But yeah, using that visualization exercise can really just strengthen that hold on that future vision. And you can't just do it once and hope, right, I've closed my eyes and I've sat down, done a visualization exercise, and that's me done. It's about repeating that regularly over the coming weeks, months, years even, and changing it as your view for what you want and your future self changes along the way. So next up is, where am I going? So yeah, you've got a good understanding about who you are. You've got a good understanding about where do you want to get to. Now we want to get things down on paper. So I want you to write down, I guess, where you are now and where do you want to be. And some things to consider are, what do you have? What are you doing? And who are you at the core? So what I mean by that, it might be, what do you have? So what possessions do you have? Yeah, you might have a car, you might have a new house. What are you doing? Are you presenting on stage somewhere? Are you coaching? Are you a property investor? Are you I don't know, delivering a presentation to the board of directors? And then, who are you? How would you describe yourself at the core? So this isn't something about what you have or what you could be doing, but who are you? Are you caring? Are you a father? Are you husband, wife? How would you describe yourself? And then create some key milestones to get you to your future state. So I was thinking about this earlier, and for some reason Elon Musk came into mind. This is the guy that's trying to colonize Mars, hugely successful guy, and he's unlikely, or it's in my view at least, I don't know this for a fact, but it's unlikely that he's just got that solid goal and nothing else to get there. Clearly there's going to be a significant amount of steps to get past before we actually end up even getting to Mars, a human getting onto Mars without even colonizing it. So you need to be able to work back with the end in mind and work back from there effectively. I would say 3, 5, 10-year goals, but most importantly, have some monthly and yearly. And that's most important, just so that you don't get demotivated about the lack of progress towards your goal. Because you need, say for example, trying to travel to Mars, that could be a project that's actually never even completed, but it's certainly going to be one that's decades as opposed to singular years. So you need to have the motivation to keep going every single day. Therefore, you need to have some key milestones to keep your motivation in place. Next up is, make sure you've got a mix of outcome and activity related goals. So definitely you need to be thinking about who you are. There isn't a set framework or percentage split that you need to have. But what I mean by outcome and activity related goals are, say an outcome one would be, I want a six pack. Yeah, clearly looking at me, you know that I don't have a six pack. But an activity related goal might help me get towards that outcome. So it might be going to the gym, or 4 times a week to do 30 minutes of cardio, or it could be doing 100 sit-ups a day. both of which are going to help me get to that outcome, but it's also something completely in my control. And it keeps me motivated over a longer period of time. So think about what motivates you most. An outcome goal, it might be, say if it's, I want to be a millionaire. That can feel like a really good outcome goal and can kind of drag you out of bed every day to go and achieve that. But it's not always the case. So just listen to yourself, and this is one where you're going to need to try some outcomes, some activity related goals. You're definitely going to need a mix of both. Make them smart, so that's nothing to do with your intelligence, but most people will have probably come across this. I certainly did in my end of year review, where you're trying to make your goals for the year and your boss is telling you you've got to make them smart. But what's smart is, I guess, to give it the place, to make it specific, make it measurable, make it achievable, make it realistic, and make it timely. So you want it needs to be defined as well as it can be, so that you know whether you've achieved it or not, and you know when you're going to have achieved it, and is it realistic for you. So I've put a little asterisk there, because what's realistic to you might be unrealistic to someone else. So you need to be honest about whether you're willing to, whether it's even achievable for you to be able to get there, but is it realistic given your circumstances right now? Is there another goal that would be more realistic, that would be a stepping stone on the way there? And the last thing, and this is almost always overlooked by everyone that I've ever done some goal setting with, align them to your values. So if your goals are aligned to your values, it makes sense. You're going to be more likely to do them, because you do not need to think about doing your values. You are just that way. So if I give you an example there, I knew that I wanted to set up a successful coaching business when I went full time in it in November last year. And I also knew belonging was a really strong value of mine, a core value of mine. So I looked at that and said, right, that's my goal. How can I align some of that goal in order to have a successful business? How can I utilize this need for belonging? So I'd done a couple of things. So I joined a growth mastermind, which straddled basically the transition from my corporate employment into full-time business owner. I also joined a networking community as well, both of which served my need for belonging, which I didn't really need to think about because I welcomed that, but they also made me a better business owner and more ready to go and take action as a business owner. So that's just a way to think about how you can think about your goals, but how can you align them? How can you almost use your values to get you serving that goal and get you to that goal a lot quicker? And then how can you get there? So these are probably the key ones for me. You can do all of the stuff that we've just talked about there, but how can you actually physically get out there and make stuff happen? Like, all of this stuff is just talk and writing and plans until you get out there. So I would say, to normalize it, you want to get around people who want to grow and achieve more in their life. And the kind of stark fact of it is, it's not going to be the people that you're spending most time with right now. And the reason for that is because, well, you'd already be there now. So that doesn't mean you need to have a wholesale cull of all your family and friends in your life, but you do want to maybe drop a couple of relationships, or at least drop some time with some of those relationships that aren't serving you, and start going out there and you're looking for people who are in the place where you would like to be, and go and see if you can spend some time with them. That could be paid, it could be unpaid. Yeah, just get around more people like you. So I would say fundamentally, like, that one was probably the biggest driver for how we have developed so quickly in property, because we got around people who that was normal for. They were buying like one a month, one every other month, and normalized that practice. So it became normal for us. So you want to be getting round those people. And I haven't, I'm still, well, when we get back out in the world, we'll still go and enjoy a pint with all my same mates that I knew before. But you do need to change and mix up who are the people that you're spending time with. Identify and reinforce PDHs. So positive daily habits that will support you. There's two kind of threads to this. So there are ones that will be specific to your goals. So think about what are the daily habits that will serve your individual goals. So again, I've used this one about you going and getting a six pack. So I want to get a six pack. That's ultimately the goal. The habit might be the sit-ups, or it might be the half hour, 4 times a week cardio that I'm going to do. You might also have some other positive daily habits there. Excuse me. You might also have some other positive daily habits. So I talk about 4 of my group group program. Doesn't this always happen? But yeah, positive daily habits. So there's 4 that I run through, and the acronym REAP. And I would say, regardless of whether what you're trying to achieve, these are ones that you want to think about. So the R stands for reading or listening to something informative, or informative about where you're trying to get to, either informative, inspiring, something like that. The other thing will be exercise. So E is for exercise. It's not groundbreaking. You're going to need to, to be feeling better, to be able to go out there. Exercising is just so important. A is for affirmations. So getting up there, how are you talking to yourself? What is your positive mind talk to yourself every day about where you're trying to get to? That can be your visualization. So that's what I tend to do. So where is it what's my future vision of myself? Spending a couple of minutes in the shower, or sat down when you're having a cup of tea, just closing your eyes and thinking about bringing that into your head and your mind to try and set you up for the day. And then the last thing is purpose. And this is one which, regardless of doing all of those, you don't need to do all of them every day, but I would say purpose. You want to be starting every day with a clear idea of where do you want to get to. And that should be something that shouldn't be like a list of 10, 20, 30, 40 different things, but should be probably no more than 3, I would say, in terms of what are your 3 key priorities for that day. And I would always be setting that in place. And the third thing is creating daily, weekly, and monthly checkpoints. So I always use this analogy of think of it like a steamboat. You've got a view of your island. You've pulled the anchor up. You're heading off. You're steering in the right direction, but you need to go into the engine room to go and get the ship actually moving. So you head into the engine room. You're shoveling coal in there. I know this is an old analogy, but then who's steering the ship? Obviously, if you spend all your time in the engine room, no one's steering it. So you need to go and check back in daily, weekly, monthly. Are you heading in the direction that you still want to? Equally, if you spend all your time just at the steering wheel, who's putting the juice in the engine? Who's actually taking you somewhere? Who's taking any action? You can't just be sat there with your color coordinated charts ticking things off that you're going to do when no one's there actually going out there and doing them. So there needs to be a balance. And I would say, at the very least, if you can look at it at least once a month, but ideally daily, or weekly, where you're checking in on that. And the last thing is have fun. Like, God, there's so many things. Like, if the last year's taught us anything, I'm sure most of us are dying to get out there and actually have a bit more fun than what we've had over the last year or so. But have some fun. For the milestones that you put in place, have something that's a reward. So whether it's a shopping spree or a meal out, or even just a takeaway, or something that it doesn't need to be that much. It's more about you recognizing and rewarding yourself. Because if you can celebrate and have fun with something about your progress and development, then you'll keep doing it. It is habitual. And so therefore, recognizing yourself is just so important. Having fun is just a fundamental for me. So that's everything that I wanted to go through with you tonight in terms of finding your purpose. Apologies for my wee man, who's hopefully fast asleep now. And apologies for my dodgy throat over the last 5 minutes or so. You can see I'm not used to talking this much. But as promised, I did want to give you a chance to hear about how you can work with me going forward. So I guess I want to let you know that I am running my next intake for my Purposeful Living group coaching program. It's going to be running across May and June this year. And it will be running through most of what we've talked about tonight. In fact, everything that we've talked about tonight. And there's 4 key areas which you can see on the right-hand side of the slides there. So we look at understanding yourself better, about creating a powerful vision for your future. So we get into on the right hand side there, we get into all the things about your values. We look at your core, your life roles in there. We start creating a visualized kind of view of that future for yourself, and we take you through a visualization exercise as well in there. Then we look into mapping your path. So we get it out of your head, we get it onto paper, and we create a plan for how you can move forward over the next 6 months and year, and look at the habits and the things that you can do to help stay on track. Because ultimately, you're going to get knocked off track at some point, and when that happens, it will be your processes and habits that basically stop you from stopping completely, and kind of heading towards where you want to go. So in terms of the course itself, it's a 2-month group coaching program. It will help you get clear about who you are, where you're going, and how to get there. And it's an important thing to say, it's capped at 8 people. So I've ran this for a few times before. The reason being is it's a group coaching program, and I really believe you can't really coach more than 8 people on a Zoom call, and it will be an online course. Needless to say, hopefully we'll be able to have a face-to-face logistics available at some point over the course, but it will be largely a Zoom call. And capping at 8 people is purely because I want to make sure that everyone's got the time of me, I guess, across the course of the 2 months. So what does the course include? You get 4 2-hour group coaching sessions, which will be recorded. So these normally happen in the evening, because most of us have full-time jobs that keep us busy during the day. They will be recorded, so if you can't make one or a couple of sessions, they'll always be recorded, and you can go back and watch them when it suits. You'll also get a 1-hour one-to-one coaching session with me. You'll get an 80-page course workbook. So this is a PDF, and I always talk about this. I've had clients before that their husbands or wives have done it, or partners. You can reuse it again and again. It's a digital workbook. As I mentioned earlier about this personality profile report, you get a copy of your own. So it's a bespoke one. It's something, you'll get a questionnaire. It will tell you basically your identity in a nutshell, and give you some pointers about how you can communicate more effectively. You'll get access to a closed Facebook group, and you'll also get weekly accountability via group as well. And lastly, and this is something which I've just introduced for this one, every single session, I guess, or every intake, I try and do something slightly different with it and iterate it. So this one I'm going to be doing, as well as the 2-hour group coaching sessions and the one-to-one sessions, I'm going to be running practical masterclasses. So they might be things such as, how can I be more productive? How can I focus more? And I'm going to be dropping them in the Facebook group, the closed Facebook group, so they'll be exclusively available to you, and you can just drop in and pick up that information whenever it suits. So running through that, for anyone that works with me on a one-to-one point of view will know what my 2-hour charge out rate is. So I won't run through every single one of these, but I genuinely believe this is from a total value point of view. If I was going in, for example, to do a DISC personality profile with your business, 150 would be the minimum that I would be spending on that. Similarly, when I'm going into businesses around one-to-one coaching as well, So a total value of 1875, and it's nowhere near that, by the way, in terms of the cost of the course. But the special bonus that I promised you at the start, if you do sign up, if you're interested in this, if it sounds like something that would be useful to you to make a significant change in your life, then if you sign up within the next 7 days and get an extra, you will get an extra one-to-one coaching session with me. And for the first time as well, I am working with a joint venture partner in the health and fitness. So it's a PT I'm working with. He's set up a fantastic health and fitness app, and you're going to have him supporting you alongside this health and fitness app over the 2 months that you're on this course as well. So it's not only a fitness app that comes with all of the videos and instructions and exercises that to keep you accountable across that period of time, but it also has kind of nutrition tips as well that you get access to over that period. So it's a fantastic kind of feed in as one of the additional habits, I guess, that will help you make a significant change. It will help you look after what goes into your mouth and what are you doing from an exercise point of view as well. So I did charge $495 for the course last time around. As I say, I've added a few extra things to it, but the price, there's no different prices or different options at the moment. It's going to be a fixed price across everyone that's doing the course. And so it's £399. I think it's phenomenal value for that. As I said, there's only going to be 8 spaces available. So if you are interested, drop your details in the comments below, or just say I'm interested and I'll get in touch with you over direct message. And just to recap, so what does the course include? So you'll see there I've added an extra coaching course in there, or a coaching session in there, bringing the total value to 2,000. And with a free access to the online fitness program as well. If you sign up within the next 7 days, you'll get access to that. For all of that for £399. And as I said, if you look at the access to the online fitness program in and of itself, it's just a fantastic add-on. If you're looking to try and get in shape for the summer as well, what a fantastic way to not only spend some time thinking about who you are and some deep inner work to try and make a significant change in your life, but also getting yourself in the right shape for summer as well would be fantastic. So hopefully that's been useful for you. That's all my details there if you want to get in touch with me. I spend most of my time on Instagram, which ironically is one of the places which I can't stream to through here. But yeah, if you want to reach me on Instagram, I'm on @DarrenGreenCoaching. My Purpose to Progress, my Facebook page is @Purpose to Progress. And you can email me at darren@workinprogresscoaching.co.uk and check out my website at that address as well. So I will stop sharing just now. If you've got any questions, we've got 7 minutes left for any questions. I'm just having a quick look through here just now. I don't know who's said it. I'm going to just a comment here, which I'll bring up. I'm going to magpie that acronym, albeit I've never tried affirmations. I like that idea of having a cup of tea with myself and visualize. Yeah, there's something which will go on in the course as well in terms of anchoring your habits. So the stuff that you don't need to think about doing, what you want to do is try and build the habits around stuff that you don't really need to think about. So having a cup of tea in the morning, if that's a habit for you, what could you do when you're having that cup of tea? There might be a positive change. There might not be something that normal for you. And it's something which is so easy to implement, or so much easier to implement. A couple of people asking for a copy of that. So fantastic. So I don't think I'm seeing everything coming in from LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm on airplane mode on my phone for obvious reasons, so I can't see that just now. But I don't think we've got any questions. But if anyone is interested in the course or would like a copy of this presentation, I'm going to be downloading it. It will come free with my coffin fit as well, and hearing Murray crying at the side. If anyone would like a copy of it, just reach out to me separately and I will be more than happy to send it on to you. So hopefully that's been a useful hour of your life. Hopefully you've taken some notes as well. And if I can help you again in the future, then feel free to reach out. But yes, have a fantastic evening. Next week, we will have Alex Colley on talking about Rent to Buy in my Purpose to Progress group. So looking forward to that one. And until then, have a fantastic evening, and I will see you all very, very soon.